The Utah Utes continue to tumble in the latest college football rankings. They're down to 15. They've won 2 weeks in a row, but they've fallen. I'm frustrated, but in a way, Shahan, I understand it. If you were to say who's better right now, Texas or Utah, I'd be willing to say Texas. If you were willing to say who's better right now, Vandy or Utah, I probably concede Vandy. Utah has not looked good over these last couple weeks defensively. Offensively, still been impressive, but defensively, which what a upside down world we live in where the Utah offense is what we're talking about now. But I understand it. Like I said, it's just frustrating because you win and you fall, but we're talking about 10-2 teams, or in Texas's case, 9-3, but that loss, one the non-conference one, the big one, on the road to Ohio State. So I get the reason they're falling. It is still just frustrating to win and fall, though. Do you feel like Utah's fairly ranked?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, when you start getting to the point of multi-loss teams in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
it starts to become like you're being positioned kind of fluid in relation to other teams, right? Like, them moving down is more about what Texas did and what Vanderbilt did than what they didn't do. And one of the kind of frustrations for Utah this season is ultimately that like a lot of their good games were early. They haven't had a huge opportunity to rebuild up their resume in the final month of the year. So I think it's probably the right place to be. I mean, look, all this said, I think that the College Football Playoff Committee gave Utah a tremendous amount of respect for most of this process. I mean, obviously, they're a team that ranked really well in the advanced metrics, that took care of business, had very high game control metrics, for example. But I think that when you start comparing resumes, the reality is, right? I mean, it's like what we're talking about with Notre Dame. Utah played two really good teams and they lost to both of them. And I think that probably just put a ceiling on where they'd be able to go.
Yeah, and even in Notre Dame, right? Those two losses by combined, I think it's 4 points, right?
Yeah.
And we less said about the Tech loss to that final score, the one the better for the Utah Utes. And that's what kind of BYU's dealing with right now, which we could talk about that in a moment. But it is an interesting conversation it's a very subjective criteria list. Obviously, the committee has to choose from, so that draws a lot of controversy. But I can respect in the conversation of, okay, let's look at these teams' best wins. Unfortunately, with Arizona State losing last week and Cincinnati's free fall continuing the last few weeks, Utah doesn't have a ranked win right now. So that's going to hurt you. Vandy, I don't think Tennessee's not ranked right now, but I still put a lot of respect in that win. They won that game by 20 at the end. Only losses are to Bama, as well as the other one was I just blanked out. Texas.
Was Texas.
Yeah, that's why Texas is above them. And Texas, yeah, not a great Florida loss, but you beat A&M and you beat Vandy, as we just mentioned. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to lean to the good wins and also how you're playing as of late. Now, there's examples of where playing as late can be a little interesting, the whole Miami Notre Dame thing. But as it relates to Utah, like we said, I just don't think anyone would fear this Utah team right now. And honestly, I would not want to see this rush defense go against a top 12 just team in general, especially one with a good running back like Utah versus Notre Dame right now. Oh, I love the Utes, but I don't want to see that one shot. I don't know how that one would work out for us.
Well, hey, I just got off the phone with Jeremiah Love today, so keep your eyes out for a story on him next week. But yeah, I mean, I do think that this Utah team is so interesting because I think that they execute at such a high level, right? Like I think that they, especially offensively, I mean, they're able to bully teams, they're able to take care of business. They are, I mean, I think Tech obviously, but outside of Tech, they're probably the highest floor team in the Big 12. They're probably one of the higher floor teams nationally. And that means a lot, right? When you're able to take care of business against, average to good teams, which I think that Utah has done. But like, there are questions that I have about their ability to punch up, right? Like, I mean, again, obviously, the Tech game kind of got out of hand at the end. It was competitive. It was more competitive than the final score, certainly. And I think that the BYU game was kind of the opposite. I think that BYU game was a little more dominant than maybe the final score was with kind of a late touchdown there. So, I think that Utah, like you said, I think that they're pretty well placed where they are. I think that you kind of look at college football in these top 25 in tiers a little bit. Like, I think that, to me, there's like right now I would put BYU in like sort of the playoff caliber tier. I think that there's 11 teams that really I feel like should be in the playoff right now. Obviously, they're going to be in trouble with maybe being that team out. But, I think that there's sort of that second group. You mentioned, obviously, the Miamis. You mentioned Texas. You mentioned Vanderbilt. I think that Utah is a notable step up from the next group of teams, the USCs, the Virginias, which obviously will be a team that could be in the playoff. I think that they're a clear step ahead of those teams. And to be, sort of in the bubble group as a really good team in college football, I mean, again, nobody's going to be happy about missing the playoffs, certainly, but I think that this is a really, really good season that Utah fans should be proud of.
Yeah, it's one of those things like we were so close to cracking this field, like relatively close. I mean, we're going to talk about what this BYU team's dealing with right now and how that could affect Utah in the future. But we were 5-7 last year. Like, it's easy to forget that too. Like,
they doubled their wins.
We had 7 rushing touchdowns last year. We have 37 this year. Like, it's crazy. The leap forward this Utah team has made. Another team that's made a step forward, I don't know if it's leap forward, but a step forward for sure is the BYU Cougars. And look, they're Utah's rival, but I think this is just an interesting standpoint because Utah would love, I hope someday Utah finds themselves in the position where they're an 11-1 team going into a conference championship game. Yes, BYU got blown out against Tech, but I don't know how I feel about a P4 conference team with just one loss being on the outside looking in when I understand we're going to do the Oklahoma's playing well-ish right now. Obviously their offense is something else entirely, but the defense is
Don't get me started on Oklahoma. I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah. But what do you make of it? Like last year, it wasn't really even a thing. Like, yes, if SMU got blown out by Clemson, they would have been out, but they kept it close and they got in. They deserve to. I feel like BYU belongs in here. You can make an argument they're absolutely better than the likes of an Oklahoma and even some of those other teams in there. What do you make of this 11-1 Big 12 team on the potential missing out? Feels like it'd kind of be historic for a 12-team playoff to leave a P4 team with that record out.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think there's a couple pieces there. One, I mean, if you compare BYU's resume to Ole Miss's, it looks really similar. When you start talking about strength of record, when you start talking about strength of schedule, they actually have a higher strength of schedule and strength of record than Ole Miss does at this point. Now, what Ole Miss has is that in their game against an elite team, Georgia, they kept up. Is that the difference between 5 spots that they played well against Georgia? Like, that's what it feels like they're kind of arguing to us right now.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines to adjust to instantly, player prop updates as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. And it's not just the NFL. Of course, college football rolling on with the playoff just around the corner and conference championship weekend coming up. College basketball, lots of big games there in the non-conference slate and the NBA too. So if you want to ride in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you when you head over to FanDuel Sportsbook today. That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. Back with you tomorrow talking the latest in Utah athletics.